Hello, my friend. On today's episode, I'm speaking with Dr. Brittaney Cook from Athletic Outcomes in Austin, Texas. She's a Unicorn Society member and the latest addition to our Business of Unicorns coaching team. We're so excited to have her, and I'm thrilled to introduce you to her on this podcast. We're talking about your 90-day onboarding process for clients. And here's the thing. Most gyms we talk to have a really terribly inconsistent client onboarding experience. As a result, people don't stay as long. They don't refer as quickly. They don't get that many quick wins. They often regret their purchase. So today, in this two-part episode with Brittaney, we're going to walk through a really tried and true 90-day onboarding experience. There are so many great tips and tricks and strategies for you to try. So between this episode, which will be part one, and the following episode in part two, please grab a pen, grab a pencil, get ready to take lots and lots of notes and learn from Dr. Brittaney Cook. Enjoy this episode. Hello, fitness business nerds. What's up? Welcome to another episode of the Business for Unicorns podcast. I'm very excited for today's episode, but before we dive in, I just want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Kilo. I know many of you as gym owners spend so much time, or really you should be spending a lot of time following up with leads who opt in through your website. And we really like working with our friends over at usekilo.com because they will not only design you a really great website that converts with great SEO, but it integrates with all these back-end tools that help you make following up with leads much, much easier. So if you struggle to automate those processes and follow up as much as you need to with your leads, go over to usekilo.com, let them know we sent you, and go give them a try because I think it'll make that process much more effective for you. Today's episode, I'm very excited to have on the podcast for the first time, Dr. Brittaney Cook. Welcome, Brittaney. How are you?
Thank you. I'm so good. Good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so glad you're on this podcast. Let me just tell people a little bit about you, and then I'll ask you to elaborate.
Perfect.
So Brittaney Cook is the founder and coach over at Athletic Outcomes in Austin, Texas. She's also a Unicorn Society member for the last few years, and most recently joined the Business of Unicorns team as a accountability coach. Yay! I'll pause for applause, hold for applause. And so I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. One more distinction is that, during our Unicorn Society retreats that we have a few times per year, last year, Brittaney had one of the most popular, well-received, best feedback given presentations at one of our retreats about 90-day onboarding and about her specific 90-day onboarding process, which is what we're going to go over today. I think it's going to be a two-parter. Today's going to be part one. You'll have to come back for part two. But I'm so excited to bring that presentation that she did for Unicorn Society to all of you listeners. So thanks for being here, Brittaney. Tell us a little bit more about Athletic Outcomes.
Yeah. So Athletic Outcomes, we started 8 years ago in Austin, Texas. My husband and I launched it.
Yep.
And right now we have, 11 coaches. And we believe in functional fitness. We love our community. Our community is fan-freaking-tastic.
Yep.
And we're just, family-owned gym, boutique gym in the east side of Austin. And we love it.
Yeah, it's a great space. I got to visit last time. I was in Austin, and it really is beautiful. Lots of great light, great community, great space. So I'm so glad to have you on the podcast and so glad we get to work together as a team. So let's dive in. I think, like I said, we're going to make this a two-parter, but here's what we're going to talk about, dear friends. We're going to talk about the importance of having a really great 90-day onboarding process for your new members. And so before we dive in, Brittaney, like what makes this so important? Like what's the why behind the what here?
Yeah, so we really focus on the 90-day onboarding to let our people know, our community know if they're a good fit for us.
Mm-hmm.
We want them to know right away, like who we are, and we don't want them to feel surprised at any point. So we create a lot of consistency.
Yep.
We lay out all of our policies, tell them what we're all about. We educate them on our program. And we also hope that during those 90 days that they really understand our core values without us shoving them down their throats.
Yep.
So really just like give them the opportunity to understand who we are, what we do, and what they'll receive from working with us.
Yeah, 100%. I think this part is so crucial. There's research that shows that customers who have a great experience in the first few days, first few weeks are more likely to stay. They're more likely to stay longer and refer friends, et cetera, et cetera. So I love that you mentioned that this is also an expectations setting moment to make sure they're clear on who
Mm-hmm.
you are, you're clear on who they are, to make sure that it's a good fit. I also know during this period, it's helpful to kind of distinguish yourself and the way your gym does things from other experiences they might have had. Can you say a little more about that?
Yeah, so from the very beginning, we give them the opportunity to take advantage of learning from us, maybe on more of an individual level. So we invite them to little things like we have a coffee club, for example, and they come and they can ask us any question about who we are, our history, who the coaches are. We just like we're an open book, so we're very transparent with them,
Yep.
and I really feel like it provides them with trust from the get
Mhm.
go, and I feel like they like the idea of knowing a little bit more about just like the meat and potatoes of our business, who we are, where we came from, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's it. Just letting them connect with you personally on like a more personal
Mm-hmm.
level, understanding why you do what you do. And I love the idea of just like inviting them to coffee as a way of doing that. They're not going to read a million emails, right? They're not
No.
going to come and sit in some long, boring workshop, right? But if you can invite them in to like really connect with you and your team, it's a great way to differentiate yourselves from other experiences they've ever had. I
Mm-hmm.
also know that a big part of why you have such a clear and well-defined 90-day onboarding process is that you can really handle like a high volume of clients, right? The more clear you are about your onboarding process, the easier it is for you to like just bring a lot of people into the business without
Yeah.
systems breaking. Could you just talk a little bit about like how you think about building SOPs for this 90-day onboarding process?
Well, first and foremost, it's always changing.
Yep.
I think even after the retreat, the presentation, I went home and even updated the 90-day
I'm sure.
onboarding.
I'm sure.
Um, but yeah, it's constantly changing, and I feel like there are things that we add and take away. We want the client to feel important with our events, even if they're just starting. Want them to feel important when they're post 90 days to engage with us as much as possible. So laying out those super clear expectations, like educating them as much as possible, hand holding them through the beginning, and then towards the end, like really focusing on how can we engage them in future events, like future experiences that are super consistent. So consistency in regards to their experience, which therefore leads to our SOPs. Creating those automations that we send out for our communication, sending out text messages that are initially automated, but then turn into a little bit more custom,
Hmm.
helps us. Number one, allows us to communicate with a lot of people, but then we'll still like implement some custom messages here and there so they still feel like they're important. So SOPs, I mean, they're always changing, but we kind of base it off of what exactly is, what does the client need in that moment? And then we'll
Yes.
just update the SOP, the automation immediately.
Yeah, that's great. Now, I love that you talked about two things there. One is making sure that there's clear instructions for how your whole team, not just one person, not just you, creates a consistent experience. So that no matter how
Mm-hmm.
many people are coming through the door in a given week, how many people are trying you out or in your low barrier offer or trial, that they are having a consistent first few weeks experience. And then I also love that you talked about some of it is automated and the robots
Mm-hmm.
help, and some of it is really
Yeah,
personalized where you're really inserting a personal thing. And I think there's a balance for people to find there. Because I think people often do all of one or the other. Or it's all
absolutely. Yeah.
automated and
We're
so
not,
impersonal, or they're
uh
breaking
huh.
their back, making everything so bespoke. And I think it's really a balance of the two that makes it sustainable. What were you going to say?
Yeah. I was just going to say that I do think people fear automations.
Yeah.
And we really do take advantage of them. I mean, something as simple as like, hey, it's your 25th visit. Like,
Hmm.
that's something I don't want to keep track of.
Nope.
An automation is perfect for that. And they're like, hell yeah, it's my 25th visit. And then we celebrate it.
Yep.
So those are the things that you can use automations for. We really take advantage of it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's just give them a lay of the land. I promise this is going to be a two-part episode. And so let's just tell them
Mm-hmm.
what the whole thing is. I'll lay it out like this, that there's a bunch of stuff that Brittany and her team does before the person's first visit. So before
Mm-hmm.
the lead even comes in for their first visit and their first low barrier offer, there's things they do during the trial, which I think we're going to get up to that point in today's
Oh,
podcast. And then after that, there's going to be 30 days, 60 days, 90 days worth of content. And that's probably going to be part two. Does that feel good enough? Yeah.
yeah, feels
Yeah. Well,
perfect.
let's dive in. When we talk about that pre-visit all the way up through the first 30 days, I think you have something like 20 plus contact points. Can you just talk a little bit about like what's your focus during this time? What are the things you're trying to communicate during these kind of initial few chapters here?
Yeah, for sure. So I think we do 20 to 25 contact points. And a contact point is just like a moment where we focus on our 90-day onboarding. So we're trying to provide either an experience for our team or an
Mm-hmm.
experience for our members or hopefully potential members, right?
Yep.
So during those first 20 to 25 contact points within the first 30 days, we really dive into giving them like very, very clear points of like, this is exactly what you can expect when you walk in the door for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And with that comes onboarding of our team, for example, like, hey, this is what we told all of the trial people what they're going to experience. And now this is
Mm-hmm.
how you do it. So we role play with our team onboarding. We really dive into our core values. What does it mean when somebody walks in the door? What's your job with that? So those first, 23 contact points are laying out super clear expectations, educating them big time on exactly what we do, what our business is all about. Our programming, for example, I do really feel like that separates us from other local gyms. And so we like to educate them on the programming rather than them just coming in like clueless of why
Mm-hmm.
they're there and what they're doing. And I always say hand holding, like we're really just there to try to guide them as much as possible. If they have any questions about memberships, any questions about the showers, the shampoo brand that we use, anything, we're just really there to be like,
Yep.
what can we do for you?
Yeah.
So big
That's
time
great.
customer
Yeah,
focus.
those I think those are really a great three specific things. That it's about clear expectations. Here's what you can expect
Mm-hmm.
day one, walking in. Here's what the parking lot looks like. Here's what your workout's going to look like. Some education, helping them understand the why behind the what, like why you program the way you do, why you chose the exercises and equipment that you do. And then the third piece I think you said was more like hand holding, just being there with them,
Mm-hmm.
supporting them, answering questions, making sure that they don't feel lost or confused at any point, that there's someone there to catch them. I think those are three really great kind of guiding principles. So let's dive in. So before they even come, before they even walk in the door, can you just give me a few examples of the kinds of touch points you do before they even come for their first visit?
Yes, absolutely. So, like I said, our onboarding for our team is really focused on creating that first impression. So, we do focus a lot on the core values regularly with our team. So, not a contact point for the clients, but definitely a contact point for us, right? To
Yep.
provide a consistent experience, like I said. Immediately when they register, they just go online and they like create an account. They could just add their username, password, phone number, email. We immediately send them an email right away. And we're like, hey, this is who we are. We saw you're interested. Like, what can we do to help you? We send them a text message also because I don't know, I love texts. Emails just get like, it'll be like 100th on my list.
They just get lost. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so bad at opening emails. Yeah. But I'm working on it. So
Yeah.
I love a text message. And the text message is just kind of like, hey, we noticed you signed up. It's very casual. It's not forceful. It's not salesy. I think that's key for our communication too. Like our messaging is me talking to you. And I really try to focus on like, if I was to have a conversation with somebody when they walked in, this is exactly what I want it to sound like.
Yep.
So, there might be like dot, 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 smiley face, like very casual.
Yep.
We do before they sign up. So right after they do sign up for their first session, we send them like an expectations text message. It's like, hey, we're parked behind Capital One. There's plenty of parking, so don't stress about that. Come in the door, and within 1 second, a coach will be there to acknowledge you. And you know what it's like when somebody walks into a business for the first time. They just
Mm-hmm.
kind of look like a deer in the headlights.
Yep.
We can spot them pretty easily. We don't have a front desk. So we really are on top of like who walks in the door and when they walk in the door. We're very aware of it. And then we do a lot of role play with this, making sure that our team is like constantly challenged with like new entries. Like when somebody walks in the door and they put their stuff down, but then they look confused. Okay, well, what can you say at that point? Like, oh, wow, it looks like you knew what you were doing. Sorry, didn't notice you were here. So acknowledging it and like also being super human. We're all humans and like we like to communicate in that way, not feel very salesy and pitched.
Yeah, there's so many great
Yeah.
things in that, Brittany. I hope our listeners are taking notes here. One is that so much of your focus here is about making sure the team is ready to
Mm,
actually be present and and anticipate this person's arrival. So role playing with your team, how to even greet people when they walk in the door, is such an underrated good use of time for you and your
mm-hmm.
team. I love that that you're also talking a little bit about setting expectations via text even before they come. And I think that casual text language is so important to make it feel like a friend is writing to you, telling you about your plans
Yeah.
for the weekend, right? It's got to be like chill vibes, not like coming from a business. It's got to feel like it's coming from a person, ideally like a friend. And I think there's no detail too small
Yeah.
to give them a heads up about. Here's the
Totally.
parking. We got showers. We have a place to put your stuff. Here's what to wear. Like any of that stuff, I think is so valuable, especially for those of you who serve a general population audience who may not always be gym people. They might not go to the gym that often. You might be the first gym they set foot in a while. To make sure they feel really comfortable is huge there. Anything else that's important for that first visit
And
touch points?
yeah, I'll just add too that we use those text messages, those automations as
Mhm.
a way to prevent future work.
Sure.
Right? So we're constantly getting a phone call. And for us to like stop what we're doing and answer the phone, it's like, oh, and
Yeah.
they're like, how do I find you? And it's like, man, this text message that we just sent you literally tells you exactly how to get here. So we really try to use those automations as a way to, like I said, lay out policies or prevent future work, like making sure that like we're nailing all the questions that people have and like really forcing them into
Yeah.
those first few interactions.
That's so great, Brittany. What it reminds me of is, my past life in hospitality. One of the things that separates like good hospitality from like world class luxury hospitality is customer service that anticipates the customer's needs, not just
Mm-hmm.
responds to or reacts to a customer's needs, but you're getting in front of here's what I know they might need. And you're proactively offering, right? It's example like at a hotel. Like a great hotel, when you're leaving and checking out, will ask you, like, we'll have some water available if you ask them for it. I'll be like, hey, I'm
Mm-hmm.
jumping in my car. I got a long car right ahead of me, or I'm getting a long ride to the airport. Like, you have a bottle of water I can take with me. A great hotel, right, will proactively offer it. Hey, where are you going right now? Do you need some directions to the airport? Would you like a bottle of water to take with you? Can I call a cab for you? Right? They will proactively ask you for what you need. Same thing at the gym. It's like, we know you're going to be driving here. There's no other way to get here. Let me tell you
Yeah.
about parking. Let me tell you about where to put your stuff. Let me tell you about the stuff we have in our locker room or shower. And so I think that's really fantastic. All right, so you've done all these touch points before they walk in. Now they're there and they're in your kind of trial phase. Typically, just for
Mm-hmm.
context, explain to people like what is a typical trial period for you?
Yeah, so we do a 2 week long trial,
Uh-huh.
and for our classes, they come as many times they want. Small
Uh-huh.
group, we narrow it down to 4 visits within that trial.
Great. Okay, great. So then during that trial phase, during that 2 week period, you have a bunch more touch points. What are the kinds of things
Hmm.
you're doing during this period?
Well, first and foremost, we always make sure that we are practicing remembering names. And
Mm,
so if somebody comes for a first visit, they walk in the door, and I'm the coach who's there. I'm going to remember their name. We try to do the 5 repeated way of like, oh, your name is Sally. Hey, Sally, and that's the second time you repeat it. And then
mm,
Sally, this is Tim, and then we try to repeat it 5 times within like the first 5 minutes.
love that.
And it usually makes it a little bit easier to remember. But if Sally's next visit is with another coach and they're not new, you'll tend to spend a little bit less time with them. You won't show them where the showers are. So there's that lack of, forceful name remembering. So
Sure.
first and foremost, we try to focus on remembering names, remembering names. That's something that we've
Names,
been
names, names.
told is
Yep.
really important. Yeah. So our coaches are working on names constantly. We do after their first visit, excuse me, after their first visit, we'll ask for feedback. So our coaches, if it is their first visit, we'll just go right up to them face to face and be like, "How was it?" And be super, it's not a forceful conversation. It's very casual. It's just like, "Tell me everything. You did a pull up. That's amazing. Awesome job. Let's do it again." Not salesy, but just like getting feedback face to face.
Yep.
And then we also ask for feedback in a text message. We'll say immediately right after, like, "How was it?" And that's when they'll get a little bit more, truthful to the
Hmm.
to our team's face. They
Yep.
may not be say what's really on their mind, but no, it allows them to be a little bit more honest with us. It was really great, but I couldn't find a towel. It's like, okay, great way to learn that we need to always focus on towels on that first interaction. So send them a text message. And then that's when we start to invite them to things. That's like within those first 2 weeks, that's when we'll invite them, for example, like to the coffee club that I talked about,
Great.
which again is just like we have it every fourth Sunday. It's just an opportunity to come, drink free coffee, and just hang out with whoever attends. So I always run them just because I'm obsessed with them. I love drinking
Mhm.
coffee with people. And so that's when we start to invite them to those sort of things, invite them to our events. And that's when they'll also start getting just our regular newsletters. And so regular newsletters, not salesy, just more like educational focused,
Yep.
just so they start to feel like they're involved in the family.
Yeah, that's so great. I mean, again, listeners, I hope you're taking notes. There's so many good pieces in this, Brittany. I hope you know how good it is. One, I just want to recap and highlight the things I think are so good is names, names, names,
Yes.
get feedback, feedback, invite them to stuff. Yeah, let's just go through like big picture, those three things again, because I think it's so critical. When it comes to names, when do you all actually practice this as a team? Is this like a thing you do in team meetings?
Well, we focus heavily on it in onboarding.
Mm,
And then we talk about it. So we have team meetings and we'll just talk about our new members. That is part of our 30 days. The first 30
yep,
days is just like conversation. Hey, who's joined? Who is this person? What do we know about this person? And we'll be like, oh, yeah, the guy who wears the Nikes. Yes, his name is Greg. And we're like, then we can't. I don't know about you, but there are certain ways that I remember people's names. Same with when I
uh-huh,
worked in an ice cream shop. I remember what they ordered for their ice cream by their vehicle. It's just like, I don't know, it
yep,
clicked. So same with like shoes. We're definitely shoe people. If they're wearing Nikes and they're red, we're going to probably remember their name. So hopefully they don't change their shoes in the first few weeks. Um, so during our team meetings, that's where we do discuss our new members or our new trial people even. And that just allows us to, if I'm not working in the evenings, it still allows me to learn about who these people are, even if I haven't seen them face to face.
yeah. It's so critical. It so seems so basic, but so many places just don't do it. You'll go, there'll be a client that's in there for the third or fourth time, and people still don't know their names. If they do know them, they're not using them. It's just an easy way to build connection and trust, and so that's great. I also love the second part, which was about feedback, 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 which is you ask for feedback in person, you ask for feedback after the fact via text, or you can certainly do it by email. And so, what do you do with the feedback when you get it?
Well, I mean, everybody's first impression is key, I believe, to them
Mhm.
continuing. A first
Yeah.
impression is everything. If you just get acknowledged, it makes you feel so warm and fuzzy in a business.
Hmm.
So, getting that feedback, we're really sensitive to it to just make sure that those first visits are like providing the experience that we think that they're providing, right? So, like, something as simple as like, well, the music was too loud. It's like,
Yep.
okay, cool. Well, yeah, as a team, we'll talk about it, but we also want to lay out expectations. Like, yeah, we love music here. It's super fun. If you are suggesting a time that, if you would like to hear a time that's maybe a little less loud, like our 4 p.m., super chill, great opportunity to
Sure.
come listen to like more chill music. So, we want to stay true to ourselves, but we also want to take that feedback and, if it's a constant, continuous feedback, then we'll definitely make changes to make sure everybody's happy. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you can't make everybody happy,
Yeah,
you know.
100%. But I think you're right that so much just hearing the feedback, making sure they understand that you listened, you cared, you did something
Mm-hmm.
about it if you could, you gave them some suggestions and tips for how to navigate it if you can't, right? And I think that in of itself helps build like loyalty, trust, all that. And then the last thing you said, I want to highlight these three because I think it's so critical, is invite them to stuff. I know so
Mm-hmm.
many gyms who do have like a monthly book club or a running club, but they don't actually, they just expect their members to just kind of like find out about it somehow, just like, like just kind of discover it someday. But you're saying no, that in these first 2 weeks during the trial, like make a specific invitation to ask them to join. And I think that goes a long way. So other than coffee club, any other invitations you tend to make?
Yeah, I mean, we're events crazy. We love events. We have happy hours. We do events just like out in the community, free
Hmm.
workouts all the time. We really believe that if you have a friend at Athletic Outcomes, you will stay. You will like continue to come
Yes.
back. Nothing is better than like waking up and be like, I'm going to see my bestie at the gym today. I think it helps our team stay longer when they have a friend at work, and it helps our members stay longer when they have a friend at the gym.
Yeah.
So whatever we can do to create that community, those connections, those relationships, we're going to do all the time as much as possible. So we're very event crazy. And I don't know if you remember during the 90-day presentation, I did get some feedback like, that's a lot of events. And we're like, yep, but we are social bunnies. We love
Yeah.
just like doing random things with our
It works for
community.
you, and it works for your
Yeah,
avatar. Your avatar is at that age where they do want to socialize and
absolutely.
bring their friends, get to know people. That's not right for every gym, but it really works for you. And certainly MFF has always been that way as
Mm-hmm.
well, right? We're social people. All right. Well, you know what? Let's leave this here. Let's call this the end of part one. And then we'll make everyone come
Perfect.
back for part two. So what we've covered in this one is, why you want to care about your 90-day onboarding, what the why behind the what we covered. We talked a little bit about the things you do before the first visit and then during the 2-week trial. What we're going to cover in part two when you all come back is what do you do in the first 30, 60, 90 days? So once they've actually become a member, gotten past the trial period, what comes next? And, Dr. Cook is going to keep walking us through it. So thanks for listening to this episode, my friends. Stay right there, Brittaney. We're going to keep on recording. And if you all love this episode, keep watching, keep listening for part two, and leave us a review, 5-star review everywhere you listen. I appreciate you all. See you in the next one.